Greetings and welcome to another Patch Notes video here at Words About Games, a fortnightly video series that lets us host discussions and post opinion pieces about our various thoughts on games, gaming, and the industry. Today I want to talk about how other people can ruin games for us. Yep, I know, sounds super positive and fun as the topic of a video, but hear me out because I've had this one brewing for a while and trust me, it'll get positive by the end. Promise. The idea of having this talk has been rattling around in my head for a few months now, ever since the end of last year when I was putting together my Game of the Year list for 2018. I had a pretty long list of games I was trying to prune into a top 30, so I started to do what any sane person in my position would do. I booted up a bunch of games that were on the lower end of my list to try them out again and confront my feelings towards them. While it was easy to figure out where to put games like God of War, my easy pick for 2018's Game of the Year, or Spider-Man or Dead Cells, or any of the games in the upper two-thirds of the list, there were a lot of great games I wanted to put up there. At one point, I even floated the idea of doing a top 40 in the Words About Games group chat, an idea that was thankfully shot down at the point of inception. One of the ways I was re-engaging with the games of 2018 was via Game Pass, that utterly absurdly brilliant subscription service on Xbox One that, seriously, most people should be subscribed to due to the insane level of value. I'm getting off track. I can't remember what I was originally looking for when I started going through the list of games on Game Pass, but I ended up scrolling past a game that had come out last year that I hadn't even been considering for Game of the Year status, because I decided it was a mediocre game that was nowhere near the top 30 games released in 2018. But then I started to actually think about it. I started to seriously question why I thought that, because I remember enjoying it when it came out. So I downloaded it. I had Game Pass, the channel was on a break for Christmas and New Year, so I had the time and space to re-examine the game. That game was Sea of Thieves. I hadn't technically written the game off for inclusion in my Game of the Year list because it had never seriously been in the running. In fact, I had originally put it on my long list for the most disappointing games video I was making. But here's the thing. After that knee-jerk reaction and after I started the download, I started to really think about my time playing the game. I got into Sea of Thieves a lot earlier than most, as I was in the technical alpha pretty much from the get-go, so I kind of saw the game change and take shape over the course of its development, going from its earliest publicly available builds through to its betas and eventual release. I don't know how much I can talk about the experiences I had while playing the alpha, as I was under a pretty strict NDA during that period, but I think it's okay to say that I saw a ton of potential in the game from early on. No one I played games with was in the alpha, so when a testing weekend rolled around and I wasn't too busy to play, I was playing with strangers. And it was great. The game was obviously rough around the edges, but it was a really cool throwback to a time when online multiplayer in games was a bit nicer. I'd be set up with a group of 3 other people in the alpha and we'd chat, have fun, and try to figure out all the moving parts of this cool little pirate game. It was promising that I was able to have that much fun with strangers, given my aversion to playing multiplayer games with people I don't know thanks to my social anxiety, which is definitely a topic for a future video. Once the pre-release betas and launch rolled around, I was able to group up with my friends. Thanks to Microsoft's newly stated policy of launching its games into Game Pass, it didn't take much to convince the majority of my gaming group to drop $7.99 on a month subscription to dive into the game with me. And my word, we played it a lot. It was kind of all we did for a little while there, and I was pretty much a Sea of Thieves streamer for a little while. It was an absolute blast playing this game with my friends, something I'd been greatly looking forward to for a long time. We goofed around, had drinking games, tried to launch ourselves out of cannons on high mountains, chased chickens around islands, locked each other in the brig and then sunk the ship. Sometimes we even tried to accomplish things in the game. Eventually we all stopped playing. People's Game Pass subscriptions ran out, we all drifted on to other games, and Sea of Thieves got shelved. It happens, especially when you're trying to make new videos about new games on a weekly basis. Fast forward to the end of 2018, and I was watching this game download. I messaged a friend who I knew who still played the game from time to time, the lovely Kirsty from twitch.tv/AverageJoeTarkus. Go give them a follow, they've got an awesome Twitch channel. And we set up a game. Once again, I had a blast. Within 5 minutes, we were laughing, joking around, trying to fight off a megalodon and a kraken simultaneously, waving at passion ships to show that we were friendly, engaging in dancing competitions. Yet again, I can't say I had a moment where I was having a rubbish experience. Once that was over, I started to seriously question everything I knew about Sea of Thieves. Why was it an automatic choice for one of my most disappointing games of 2018, sharing a spot with games like Metal Gear Survive or Detroit Become Human? When I actually looked back on my memories of the game's alphas, betas, launch, and the session I had just played, I'd never actually had a bad time with the game. Sure, it had its issues. At launch, there was a lack of content, and the combat wasn't great. It still isn't, in case you were wondering. But a game is about much more than its content and game mechanics, especially if you're enjoying the time you're spending with it. And so I continue to interrogate my feelings around the game, trying to pinpoint what the game actually did to send my opinion of it tumbling so far down. It was occupying a similar space in my thoughts as Metal Gear Survive, especially when I couldn't recall ever disliking the game while I was playing it. I know that I was in the minority when I talked about enjoying the game when it launched. I'd sit on the Words About Gamescast, my Xbox and Me, Twitter, Twitch, and everywhere else and talk about liking the game and get hit with rejoinders about how there was nothing to do, how it was only fun with friends, how the combat kind of sucked, and more. And to be honest, that's all true. I said as much in my review of the game on social media and when I put it in my Game of the Year list, but I still liked it. At some point after I stopped playing it and interacting with it on a semi-regular basis, and got told about all the different ways Sea of Thieves wasn't a very good video game, I just kind of accepted it. The good times were replaced in my memories by what other people were saying about the game because I absolutely agreed that the game needed extra content, better combat and whatnot. And there were a lot of people in my social circles saying these things over and over. It's something I see a lot in the discourse about video games. For example, I saw it recently with Anthem. There are people out there who are really enjoying the game despite its flaws for a myriad of different reasons. I remember a tweet from Greg Miller during the height of everyone yelling about how Anthem wasn't very good, where he talked about how he was still enjoying the game, and I saw numerous replies underneath telling him why the game sucked. Opinions influence opinions. Social influence is a big deal in video games, especially as we're all clamouring to join the discussions about the newest games and hottest topics. There tends to be a consensus that eventually forms around whether a game was well received or not and whether people liked it or not. And when you're trying to join in with that discussion, you might be consuming reviews and opinions outside your own. And when there's an overwhelming tide of negativity towards something, you get bombarded with it, regardless of how you feel about that thing yourself. A lot of people didn't like Anthem before it even released, thanks to the negative buzz it was generating thanks to its paid early access. It can be hard to remember why you liked something when enough people tell you over and over how bad it is, especially when the points they're bringing up form part of those memories. Yeah, Sea of Thieves didn't have a whole lot of content. Maybe it was a bit boring. The combat really was kind of bad. Next thing you know, you've forgotten why you enjoyed the game like you did. Now, I'm not at all saying having contradictory opinions is bad or that you're wrong if you didn't like Sea of Thieves. You do you is a phrase I throw around a lot on this channel, as long as you're not being a dick about it. I'm not even saying I know that the solution to this phenomenon is, or that it's even a major issue to begin with. I'm just observing something that I've seen happen time and again on social media, that it's something to be mindful of, and that it's kind of weird. While good reviewers, influencers, and game critics can point you in the directions of games you'll like and try to ward you away from games you might dislike, the best person to trust when it comes to your own gaming opinions is yourself. That might seem like a weird thing for someone who actually reviews games on YouTube to say, but it's true. I can tell you all about what a game is, how it works, and the parts of it that I liked and disliked, but I can't tell anyone out there whether they'll like a game or not, because I'm not them. A famous Words About Games example is Nioh. When Nioh launched, I became obsessed with it. I loved it a lot, and at the time it was my favourite game to come out that year. It was still in my top 3 by the year's end. I spoke incredibly positively about the game in almost every aspect when I reviewed it on the podcast, back when we did review discussions sometimes. This inspired Keith to go out and buy it, despite the fact that he doesn't like Souls-like games, a category that Nioh definitely falls into. So naturally, he didn't like the game all that much. The information that I try to convey in a review or impressions video is that these are my personal takeaways, mixed with facts about how the game works, so that you know whether it's for you or not. I've given games fairly negative reviews that have still convinced people to buy them and vice versa, because what doesn't work for me might work for somebody else. I'll never try to change someone's mind or tell them what to think, merely tell them about my own personal experience, and try not to get lost in the sea of other people's opinions. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, please leave us a comment, like, or subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We've got tons of awesome videos coming every week, including review impressions, indie game of the week, debate-driven top 5 lists, video essays, and our weekly podcast where we discuss games, gaming culture, and the games industry. We also stream 3 times a week at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames. But most importantly, have a fantastic day.